Alright folks, hello again, welcome back to my channel. Now, although I am in the workshop today, this is not a workshop activity related video. I'm dressed very much in my civvies because I'm here to talk about my first anniversary since I had the spinal cord stimulator surgery last year. Now, this is a woodworking channel, it's a disability woodworking channel, but it's also a channel about me as a person and me and my life and the pathway to the spinal cord stimulator and the full implant surgery this time last year was and is a major part of my life, and I just want to relate some of those experiences because I know there are people who have joined the channel when I uploaded I've just undergone major surgery this time last year, and also the 3-month update I did, because they want to know more about spinal cord stimulators, spinal cord implants. They want to hear real experiences about that, and that's what I'm here to do. Now, before I jump into the main part of the video, I've got a couple of little disclaimers I think it's really important to say at the start. Firstly, I am only relating my experiences as a patient. I am not a trained medical professional. If you have any specific questions about spinal cord stimulators, it's really important you ask them to your consultant surgeon and not some mug on a YouTube video. And secondly, and I can't believe I'm saying this in a non-woodworking video, I am not being sponsored or paid by Nevro, who are the manufacturer of the spinal cord stimulator that I have. These are purely my own thoughts and experiences. The only reason I am saying this, and I know there will be people chuckling sat watching the TV at the moment, is for our American cousins, because there is sometimes a bit of a grey area in spinal cord stimulator content out there that are they being sponsored or paid to say nice things, and I can certainly say hand on heart that I am not being sponsored or paid by Nevro to make this video. And finally, before I go into the whole 12 months on living life with a spinal cord stimulator, I just want to reference the last SCS video I uploaded, which was 3 months on from the surgery, and I watched it back the other night in preparation for this video. And I didn't realise it actually became a monologue about mental health and the mental health conditions I'm living with. And obviously it's Mental Health Awareness this month. Now, this video is not going to do that. I'm not going to get myself sidetracked again. But I think there is no denying there is a strong link between chronic pain, neuropathic pain, and poor mental health. And I have only recently made the decision to be a little bit more open about living with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression and anxiety. Now, this video won't be about that, but I do have a link to a podcast that I did with the Vent organisation and with Freddie, where I am very open about those things. So I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested in any of that, because it does directly link to living with chronic pain, and it does directly link to my life over the last 6 years. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so if you are tuning into the channel for the very first time because you want to know about my experiences with a spinal cord stimulator, then welcome to you all, and maybe you might consider liking this video, and if you're feeling really generous, then subscribing to the channel as well. But let me give you the quickest of quick recaps of the timeline of how I ended up where I am today. And it kind of starts 6 years ago. I was involved in a horrific car crash that left me with life-changing injuries. I'd lost the functional use of my right arm and hand. I was right-handed, and I was also subsequently diagnosed with chronic neuropathic pain as a result of the nerve damage, manifesting itself in the heart of my shoulder, which also goes down the inside of my right arm and also down my right side towards my rib cage. I was referred to the Walton Centre, which is a neurological hospital here in Liverpool in England, and I became under the care of Dr. Sharma, who is a pain specialist. Now, here in the UK, it's completely different, our healthcare system, to our American cousins. And the National Health Service is free at the point of entry. And I was placed on what was called a pathway to the spinal cord stimulator. Now, from relating my experiences and talking with my friends over in the US who have been in touch with me about SCS surgery, it's largely quite a different approach to what you have over there to what you have here. Spinal cord stimulator surgery is seen as the very last option in terms of pain reduction. All right, I went through a pathway which totaled 3.5 years before I had the final implant surgery done. I know that's not the case in the US, where they are a lot maybe quicker off the mark to go for the spinal cord surgery, spinal cord stimulator surgery, and it's completely different here. So I went through a series of processes, including pain management program, all types of non-surgical, non-invasive treatments, including intense physiotherapy, all those kind of things, psychotherapy, and it was a whole process that I was fully engaged in before the decision was made after 2.5 years to have the trial surgery, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in my original video. And then with that being a success, I was then placed on the list for the full implant surgery, which I had around this time last year. And probably what I'm most frequently asked is the purpose of the surgery itself. Are you going to get the use of your arm back? Just to clarify, it's not about regaining functional use of limbs or anything like that. The spinal cord stimulator surgery is about the management of chronic pain, nerve pain, neuropathic pain. And my basic understanding of the surgery with the implant is, say for example, my brain is sending a message to my right hand to open and close. When it gets to the damaged nerve area, the nerve bounces back the signal to the brain because it's not working properly, and that's in the form of pain. The stimulator, the spinal cord implant, intercepts that signal and helps to suppress it, to calm it down, which hopefully then reduces the pain signals to your brain, which makes you then feel less pain. I think that's my understanding. Anyway, about the implant itself, for me personally, it's fitted to my spinal cord around my C2 vertebrae, so the second vertebrae in my spinal column, and the actual device is lower down towards the lower side of my left rib cage. It's stitched to my rib cage back here. The actual procedure itself, I think, took around 2 hours, and there is 2 incisions in my back, and I will show a picture of it in 5 seconds. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, then close your eyes for a little bit while I carry on talking. And one of the incisions was to actually put the leads up through my back towards my C2 vertebrae, and the other is to open up where the device is being implanted, and then the leads are then attached to the device. I was what I will describe as semi-conscious through it. So there were times when I was conscious while the surgery was being performed because they needed to speak to me. That isn't in all the cases that I'm of my understanding, but I think for certain specific types of the spinal cord stimulator surgery, they need to be able to speak to you during the course of it. Recovery time, I was actually only in hospital for a reasonably short period of time. The device, what the Walton Centre do is they don't switch it on for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks post-surgery, they switch the device on. My understanding of that is so you can get, so you can heal from your wounds. It's quite an intensive surgery. The term tunnelling was used by the surgeon to describe how they get everything to fit where it needs to be done. It's not the most pleasant, but it actually gives you an idea what's going on inside you. Post-operative pain was quite severe, not going to lie to you. They managed that with, for example, things like Oromorph, morphine, those kind of things. And I have had, if you look at the comments section in my previous SCS videos, people describing the post-op pain as pretty horrific. It's a different type of pain to nerve pain. You call it acute pain, really. It's like when, you suffer an injury, so it's that kind of thing. It does subside. For me, it was about 7 to 10 days later that I started to feel a little bit better and less discomfort. And then obviously the implant then is switched on 2 weeks after the surgery. As I said before, mine is from the company called Nevro. That is my wireless, that is my power bank basically, and my wireless charging pad. And here is the remote. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. I have to carry this around everywhere with me, and I'll explain that again. Yeah, I have to charge myself up. A bit surreal, isn't it? So I switch the device on the power bank thing. I sit back and place this near where the actual device is, back here. I wait till I get, it's kind of like a bullseye thing, like a dartboard. And when you get a reading on that, you know it's charging. How long does it take to charge me up, and how often do I have to charge myself up? That depends on the actual frequency and the setting you're on. It can be anything from once every 4 to 5 days, something along those lines. That's probably the longest I've gone without charging, to once a day, I think, when I was on a specific setting. The actual settings themselves, and this is where I get into a little bit more detail about living with the device. Once the implant has been switched on, it then becomes a case of working with the neurosurgeon people and with the support staff in terms of the nursing staff to fine-tune the device to hone in on the sweet spot we call on the spinal cord, which can give you the best suppression of pain, the best pain relief possible. And for example, on this device, there is 5 frequencies and 7, shall I say, power settings for each one. So there's a combination of 35 different settings just on this device alone. And you actually get, believe it or not, software upgrades when you go for your checkups. So they wirelessly connect you to their laptops, and if there's any upgrades to try different frequencies and channels and all that kind of thing. It is a bit bionic, man. It is a bit surreal, but that is now part of the life that I live. So what they suggest in terms of the Walton Centre, what I did was to spend roughly 3 or 4 days on each setting before then adjusting a frequency. They try to get it as close as they can to the best pain relief you were getting from the trial surgery, and then you kind of work up towards that. We are talking fractions of millimeters here on the actual spinal cord. I think the way it works is, for mine, they place what they call like 5 nodes on my spinal cord, and like, for example, setting 1 is focusing on nodes 1 and 2, setting 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, if that makes sense, and then adjusting the power levels on that to hit the sweet spot of the pain relief. When they first switched it on, I didn't really feel any different in terms of experiencing pain relief, but it was over the course of, say, about 3 to 4 weeks that they kind of tuned it in to where I was getting suppression of the worst of the nerve pain. Which was good, that was, I was starting to feel the benefit of the surgery itself. It can take over a year to achieve those kind of, I have got my 12-month checkup coming up soon, and they are always looking to improve on that. So that's why I'm saying about software updates and stuff. So my pain levels in terms of the chronic nerve pain, I have related a 40 to 50% improvement in the chronic pain side of things, which for me is life-changing. Prior to the actual full implant surgery a year ago, I was in a mess, physically, mentally. I talked about, I referenced a little bit before about the knock-on effect of chronic pain on your mental health. And also, as a chronic pain sufferer, it's not just you who suffer, is it? Your family suffer just as much, because you can shut down, you can isolate yourself, it's just as much their pain as it is yours, let's be honest about it. So to start experiencing those improvements, that kind of relief in pain, was life-changing. That's I am so grateful to the medical professionals at the Walton Centre, to the whole team that I work with there, that I'm in regular contact with. It took me from a very dark place and has given me hope and has shown a bit of light, shall we say. It doesn't mean the pain is gone. It certainly hasn't. But I recall in my darkest times how the pain was just gripped and controlled me. You know, I wasn't in control of myself. The pain controlled me, and that's a very difficult way of living your life. It was extremely difficult. But what the implant surgery has done for me is I feel a bit better rested. You know, in terms of, I'm not being melodramatic in saying I didn't really sleep for 5 years. You know, I was, you know, because I couldn't, you know, the pain was just so horrendous. You know, at best I might get a little bit of rest, but I wasn't getting REM sleep or anything properly like that. And if you're living your life, you know, if you suffer a bit of sleep deprivation, then you know the knock-on effect of your ability to function in everyday life, your mental health, your interactions with people, friends, family, work environment. So what it has allowed me to do is allow me to be better rested, which is brilliant. That's been the biggest improvement, I'd say, in my life. And being better rested, I feel better in myself. Right, let's get a little bit more into, I was almost in danger of getting sidetracked again, actually living with one of these devices. Now, I do actually, very rare for me this, because none of this is ever scripted, but I have made some notes as a little reminders to myself. Now, I talked a little bit about the process of fine-tuning, about it being switched on. Day-to-day life. Okay, so where the device for me, where it's located for me, which is to say the lower part of my rib cage. Now, that is uncomfortable where it is. You know, the location of, I wouldn't necessarily say painful. It was initially, obviously, when, you know, and it was for a few months after, but it's uncomfortable. Now, where they actually locate the device on you, it's say every patient is an individual, and it depends on your, you know, your frame. You know, so for some people it might be lower down, closer to the kidneys. I have read cases of it actually being put in, you know, one of your bum cheeks, but also depends on where the actual part of your spinal cord, where the actual device is going itself. The difficulty where it is here is you've got to be mindful of the chairs that you sit on, because I can't really sit on hardback chairs because it just feels like the actual device, I'd say, is a little bit bigger than an old-fashioned matchbox, but it's quite thick. So if you lean back on something hard, then it pushes into you, you know, it's inside, and it's not a very pleasant sensation, that. So day-to-day life, you've got to be mindful of your seating arrangements, you've got to be mindful of, you know, having things like cushions, you know, if you go, or pillows, you know, if you are going to, for example, we went to Maker Central, the first time I was an exhibitor there, 2 weeks ago, and we stayed over for the weekend. You know, I have to take my own pillow and stuff, because you might think that's a bit, so, but you know, you've got to be mindful of creating an environment that's comfortable for you. All right, and you know, hotel rooms, plane seats, certain car seats, they're not exactly designed for this kind of level of comfort. So you've got to think ahead of that. I've got to carry my remote control around with me everywhere, and I also have a card in my wallet to say that I'm fitted with a spinal cord stimulator. And also, and thank you to one of my subscribers, Bill, who mentioned about using my screensaver on my phone as a warning, because if something was to happen to me, and maybe, and you know, never wishing this, and I very rarely go anywhere unaccompanied, if I was to suffer an injury or was, you know, an accident, and I was knocked out and a paramedic came, then they need to know that I'm fitted with an implant, you know, a device, you know, so that, and they need to be careful. And having the remote with me means it can be switched off if needs be. And also, you know, having the screensaver on my phone, having the card, it gives the medical people or whatever a notice of, you know, what's inside me. In regards to that as well, if you're thinking around things like airports or venues that you're going into, you can't go through the metal detector things. You're not allowed to, you know, that's not to be done. What I do, say for example, at the NEC in Birmingham, I have a letter from my consultant surgeon. I also have the card saying I'm fitted with this device. For a lot of folk, they don't really know, when you say spinal cord stimulator or spinal cord implant, they look at you a bit strange. If you then say it's similar in regards to a pacemaker. So people with pacemakers carry things around, although it's a totally different implant, if you like. But pacemakers are obviously quite common. So people who show up with a card pacemaker, they can't go through the metal detector things, you know. So you show the card and you go around. That's happened to me a couple of times. You've got to be mindful that at airports, you may need to plan for that in terms of time management. If you're going to a venue like the NEC, or you're going to a football ground, you might go to, you know, Wembley Stadium, for example, then you need to maybe think about getting there a bit earlier, just in case. Personally, I've had no issues, but you know, it's not to say that you could be held up a little bit because people are unsure. You might have to go and do additional checks. Just be fine with it, you know, that's not a problem. You know, and having the remote with you as well, just in case you need to switch it off. Right, so that's that one. So the day-to-day life, I talked a little bit about the charging up. You know, the one I'm on currently, I charge myself up about every 3 or 4 days. And it's just something you adjust to. That's probably the best way to describe it. It becomes a part of your life. It is literally, physically a part of you. You know, that people who manage other health conditions, maybe things like diabetics, you know, with the injections or the insulin pumps and stuff, it just becomes a part of your everyday life. And if you get your head around that kind of mindset, it doesn't become a chore or a, you know, you just integrate it into, you know. So for example, charging up for me, I will generally do that when we're sat down in the evening, we're going to watch a bit of TV, you know, watch a bit of Netflix or something like that. And I can sit there and get myself up to charging. Now, the only issue with it is it's quite sensitive. So once you get yourself on the sweet spot with the wireless charging pad, you kind of need to stay in that position really, because if you start fidgeting about, you can lose the signal and then you're back to square one trying to get it on the sweet spot again. So again, bear that in mind. You know, it can take an hour, maybe a little bit longer. If you let the charge run down, you might be one of those people who tops it up regularly, which is fine. So maybe an hour to an hour and a half. So you know, get yourself comfortable, get your pillows sorted out, get yourself on the right angle on the TV, get yourself a drink, a glass of something nice, so you're not having to get up and get down. Right, just a little bit of advice on that one. I talked about planning a journey. You've got to think ahead. You know, that's the, you know, it's how your life is now. If you're going to get the benefit of this pain reduction, there are not sacrifices, there are adjustments you need to make in your life. So spontaneity is a bit of a difficult one. So you've got to kind of think ahead and manage that appropriately. What kind of things can I not do? Some of the FAQ, frequently asked questions, get asked, could you go swimming? You know, and I laughed at first, you know, because thinking, because you might get electrocuted. But then I thought, actually, do you know what? People might think these things. Yes, that's absolutely fine. You can go swimming. You can go to the baths. You can go in the sea. You are not going to get electrocuted by your own device. What can, you know, I've been asked this quite regularly. What can you not do anymore? Or maybe you feel a little bit younger than I am. How would your life have to adjust? Now, I've been, in terms of relating this to my chronic pain condition, but also my mental health around kind of the anxiety monsters, if you like. I struggle a little bit, not a little bit, I'm being, I'm not being honest with myself. I struggle in busy places. I struggle in places that are congested with folk, and I need to manage that with my support group around me. So that's generally, you know, that's Pam, who manages me very well if we have to go to somewhere where it's going to be busy around you. You can't do things like contact sports anymore, because you know, that's one of the things that's, you know, in the Walton Centre blurb. For obvious reasons, you have an implant placed on your spinal cord, right? You have a device that is attached to somewhere internally. So if I take it back a little way from, you're not playing rugby or football anymore, but also you need to be careful in life that you're not getting bumped, banged, jostled, because that could cause an issue. You know, that really can. Because I have to be very mindful as well that in addition to struggling in those kind of environments. I struggle with my balance, ever since I lost the use of my right arm. Even now, 6 years on, if I lose my footing a little bit, I will still try to reach out with my right hand to correct myself. And when I realise that it doesn't work anymore, it can often be too late and I've fallen over. So, we've had to have the house adapted with extra rails and grab rails and that kind of thing. So there are adjustments in your life that you will need to make. You need to be careful. You need to look after yourself. In say, for example, I was saying busy environments, you need to be mindful of not that kind of thing. But apart from that, it's allowed you to, or allows me to experience the sacrifices I have to make are minimal compared to the benefit that I've experienced in terms of the pain reduction. Really important disclaimer at this point, because I have had many interactions with people since I, uploaded the videos about SCS, about spinal cord stimulators, is it isn't for everyone. It's not a guarantee that it's going to reduce pain for you, and you have to manage your expectations accordingly. Do not think it's some kind of miracle cure and you're going to be pain free. Some people I've spoken to have experienced total pain relief, complete pain relief, which is incredible. That's not been the case for me, but I am extremely grateful for the pain relief I do receive from it. Similar people have had difficulties with it. It's not worked for them, and that really is unfortunate. But as I say, it's not some kind of miracle cure. It's not for everyone. It's, as I say, here in the UK, I was on a pathway for over 3 years before I had this surgery, and they tried all non-invasive means to help manage the pain better before they reached the conclusion that the SCS was the right thing for me. So it's a long process here in the UK in the neurological hospitals. Again, I know it's different in the US, but it isn't for everyone. It's really important that I point this out in this video. One other thing that, again, I've been asked about, things that can't you have, is MRI scans. Now, with the device I have implanted, because it's, a new one, it is okay for me to have MRI scans in certain conditions. I had knee surgery last year, and I had to speak to the people at the Walton Centre, and they had to converse with the hospital that was doing the knee surgery. So as long as they know it's to do with frequencies and settings and things, it is possible for me to have MRI scans. Some hospitals won't, but they can refer me back to my neurological hospital, who can do the MRI scan for them and then send the results over to them. So it is possible for me to have them CAT scans. That's fine, that's not an issue, because people are mindful. They think if you have it at the age, I'm 48 now, there's a high probability at some point in the future I'm going to need an MRI scan, and it's okay for me to have them done. Hope that makes sense. And just to go back to something I said at the beginning, my motivation for actually uploading these videos, during my process of the pathway and when I was being considered for this surgery, I didn't, apart from the medical professionals, I didn't have anybody to speak to who'd actually been through this surgery, and they're really the folk you'd want to have a conversation with, just to ask them, because sometimes you're a little bit embarrassed speaking to medical professionals because you don't want to make yourself look stupid with what you might class as a stupid question, which isn't. It's just something that is affecting you. And I had the opportunity to speak to a guy when I had the trial surgery. I was in the recovery ward, and there was a gentleman there who had the SCS surgery 5 years previous. And he was in the bed next to me, and just got chatting to him, said, "Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" And he said, "Fire away." And that was so important to me. It really helped to put my mind at ease. I know speaking to the medical professionals is obviously to get the specifics of what's being done, but just as they haven't undergone the surgery themselves, despite the fact they carry it out multiple times a week. So to actually speak to someone who lives with one of these devices was really reassuring. and there wasn't a lot out there in terms of content on YouTube. I do follow a guy called Alabama's Finest TM, brilliant guy. He does shorts and long form uploads about his journey with the SCS, so I will leave a link in the description to him. If you're not following him already and you want to know about living life with a spinal cord stimulator, then please follow him. Great guy, great content. Now, it is getting towards the end of this video, and it does become the opportunity for me to say, I have no doubt what I've said during this video people will have questions about, and there's where the comments section exists. I've also got in the links in the description will take you to any of my social media stuff, my Instagram, Facebook. So if you want to get in touch with me via the comments here, via my social media, via the email address that's there, via my website, there's a contact us page on my website. Please check that out, and I will do my best. Things have been really busy over the last kind of 6 months, so I will do my best. I will always reply to every message. It might take a little while, but I do get back to you at some point. I'd really like to thank my website members who have experienced this journey over the last 12 months. My website membership thing, it's kind of like a equivalent of Patreon or YouTube membership, but it's done via my website, which is a one-off fee of, a monthly fee of £3 a month, which give you behind the scenes video, like the build up to this kind of stuff, ad-free access to my YouTube videos and vlog style videos about me and my life as well. So if that interests you, then please check it out in the description and maybe consider to subscribing to that. Okay folks, I've just got to the end. I'm conscious I've waffled on for a long time on this one, but the topic of SCS, it does get my waffling brain going, and I hope you found this a little bit useful in relation to spinal cord stimulator surgery, in living life with a spinal cord stimulator. If you have had the surgery, or you are on the pathway to the trial, or you're on the pathway to the full surgery, then I wish you the very best of everything, and please get in touch if you've got any questions. Okay folks, that's it for this one. So as ever, take care, look after yourselves, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.